My wife called from her conference to tell me she was having dinner with her ex-boyfriend. I said 2 words, then I hung up and ordered a paternity test. The phone vibrated against the kitchen counter that night. 3 buzzes, then silence, then 3 more. Her ringtone used to make me smile, some pop song she downloaded after our first date. Now it just made my stomach tighten. I dried my hands on the dish towel and picked up. The kids were in the living room, their voices carrying through the doorway, something about who got to be the blue dinosaur. "Hey, honey," Sarah said. Her voice had that bright, performative quality she used when she was drinking. Background noise bubbled through the speaker, glasses clinking, laughter, jazz piano. "You won't believe who I ran into at the hotel bar." I didn't say anything, just waited. "Michael, you remember Michael, right, from college?" She laughed, light and easy. "We've been catching up. He's here for the same conference. Small world." Michael, her ex, the one she'd dated for 3 years before me, the one whose photo she'd kept in a shoebox until I found it 2 years into our marriage. "Anyway," she continued, "we're grabbing dinner. Nothing fancy, just the hotel restaurant. I'll probably be back late, so don't wait up." The kids' voices rose in the next room. My son, our son, was negotiating screen time. Emma wanted to show me her drawing, their world, small and safe, spinning on while mine tilted. "Sarah," I said, my voice came out flat, controlled. "Prove it." Silence, then, "What?" "Prove it. Send me a picture. Right now." She laughed. She actually laughed. That's when I knew this wasn't the first time. "Are you serious? You're being paranoid? We're just having dinner." "Then prove it. Show me the restaurant. Show me you're with other people from the conference. Show me anything." "I'm not doing this," she said. The brightness drained from her voice. "I'm not playing your jealous husband games. We'll talk when I get home." "We won't," I said, and I hung up. The phone sat on the counter between the coffee maker and the fruit bowl. My hand was steady, my heart wasn't. Emma appeared in the doorway, holding a piece of construction paper covered in crayon. "Daddy, look, I drew our family." I bent down to her level, 6 years old, missing her front tooth, Sarah's eyes, but not her smile. She held up the drawing proudly, 4 stick figures holding hands, me, tall with glasses, a smaller figure, my son, Jake. Emma herself in purple because it was her favorite, and our dog Max, with a tail bigger than his body. No mother. I stared at that drawing. Something cold and clear settled in my chest. "That's beautiful, sweetie," I said. "Why don't we put it on the fridge?" "Where's Mommy in the picture?" "She's on her trip, remember?" Emma nodded slowly, then looked up at me with those serious eyes kids get when they know more than they're saying. "She's always on trips." Yeah, she was. If you've ever had that moment where everything suddenly makes sense, all the little things you ignored clicking into place, you know what happened next. I tucked Emma into bed, read Jake his chapter of Harry Potter, and then I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and started a list. The late nights at the gym that started 6 months ago. The gym membership card I'd found in her wallet last week, still sealed in its plastic sleeve, unused, the new perfume, the lingerie I'd never seen her wear, the way she angled her phone away from me when she texted, the weekend team building retreat in March, the client dinner in April, the mandatory training in May. And now this, the ex-boyfriend at her hotel, having dinner. Who goes to the gym at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday? Someone who isn't going to the gym, who runs into an ex-boyfriend at a conference 5 states away. Someone who planned to meet him there. I added up the Uber receipts from our joint account, late-night rides to addresses I didn't recognize, hotel charges on weekends I thought she was at her sister's, a pattern emerging like invisible ink under heat. The night before her conference, I'd found something in her suitcase, something she'd never packed for me. A silk robe, tag still on, size small. Sarah wore medium. The label read, "For my love. Happy anniversary, M." M. Michael. I closed the laptop, opened it again, typed divorce attorney near me into the search bar, then deleted it, typed paternity test instead. My hands shook on the keyboard. David picked up on the second ring. We'd been friends since college, roommates junior year, best man at each other's weddings. He'd gone to law school. I'd gone into accounting. We had beers every few months and complained about mortgage rates. Now I needed him for something else. "It's late," I said when he answered, "but I need a lawyer." "Jesus, what happened?" "How long do we have to talk?" "As long as you need. I'm putting on coffee." I told him everything. The phone call, the pattern, the receipts, the robe with someone else's initial. He didn't interrupt, just listened with that careful silence lawyers practice. When I finished, he said, "What do you want?" "I want to know if my kids are mine." The words hung there. I hadn't meant to say them out loud, but once they existed in the air, I couldn't take them back. "Okay," David said slowly. "That's where we start. But before you do anything, and I mean anything, you need to understand something. In this state, paternity established at birth is nearly impossible to challenge. The law assumes the husband is the father. Even if you discover otherwise, you're still legally and financially responsible unless you can prove fraud. 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 Which means you'd need to prove she knew the children weren't yours and deliberately deceived you. That's a high bar. I thought about the robe, the receipts, the unchanged gym membership, Sarah's laugh when I asked for proof. "David," I said, "I think I can prove it." "Then here's what we do. First, DNA tests. Get them done quietly, use a reputable lab, keep the documentation. Second, you say nothing to Sarah. Nothing. You don't accuse, you don't confront, you don't give her any warning that you're building a case. Third, you document everything. Every late night, every unexplained charge, every text message you can legally access. Can you do that?" "Yes." "And one more thing." He paused. I heard him take a sip of something. "Before you do any of this, you need to answer a question honestly. If those kids aren't biologically yours, if the tests come back and say 0%, can you still love them?" I looked at Emma's drawing on the fridge. 4 stick figures, no mother. "Yes," I said, "that's not even a question." "Then let's make sure you get to keep them, because if Sarah's been planning this, she'll fight dirty. And in family court, mothers usually win, unless we have evidence that changes the narrative. 2 words created cause." The DNA test kits arrived in a brown box 3 days later. Medical-grade swabs in sterile plastic tubes, instruction sheets in 3 languages, prepaid return envelopes. The box sat on my dresser for a full day before I could open it. Jake was easy. He was at a friend's house for a sleepover. I'd already collected his toothbrush, sealed it in a plastic bag David had given me. The lab said toothbrushes worked if you couldn't do swabs. Emma was harder. She was sitting at the kitchen table doing a coloring book when I came in with the kit. "Hey kiddo, want to play a game?" She looked up, purple crayon in hand. "What kind of game?" "A science game. We're going to see whose DNA is the coolest. Here, open your mouth and say, like at the doctor?" "Exactly like that." She opened wide. I swabbed the inside of her cheek, gentle, following the instructions precisely. 10 seconds, sealed the swab in its tube, labeled it with the code number they'd given me. "Is mine cool?" Emma asked. "The coolest," I said. My throat was tight. The absolute coolest. That night, I swabbed my own cheek, packaged everything according to the instructions, and drove to the FedEx drop box at the gas station. The packages rattled in my hand like pills. I stood there in the fluorescent lights, car idling behind me, and almost didn't let go. Then I thought about Sarah's laugh, about the robe, about Emma's drawing with no mother in it. I dropped the packages through the slot. The lab said results in 7 to 10 business days. I'd paid extra for expedited processing. 5 days. Those 5 days were the longest of my life. Sarah came home from her conference on Tuesday, bright and affectionate, full of stories about keynote speakers and networking events. She kissed me at the door and asked about the kids and made dinner like nothing had happened. I smiled. I asked questions. I played the role of trusting husband. And every night after she fell asleep, I sat in the bathroom with my laptop and documented everything David had told me to document. Downloaded bank statements, screenshotted text messages from her unlocked phone, compiled a timeline that stretched back 18 months. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. I held it for 4 hours before I could open it. It sat on the passenger seat of my car while I drove nowhere, circling blocks, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Finally, I pulled into an empty parking lot and tore it open. 2 reports, legal letterhead, state seal embossed in gold. Jake's first. I scanned down to the conclusion. Probability of paternity 99.99%. My son was mine. Relief hit so hard I had to close my eyes. Then Emma's report, same format, same clinical language. I read it 3 times before the words made sense. Probability of paternity 0.0%. 0. Emma wasn't mine, not biologically, not according to the DNA in her cells and mine, but that purple crayon drawing was on my fridge at home. Her toothless smile, her small hand in mine every morning walking to the bus stop, her voice calling Daddy when I came home from work. When I did, I understood why Sarah had been so confident. My son, my actual biological son, was mine. My daughter wasn't. And suddenly, that phone call made perfect sense. She wasn't confessing. She was bragging. I didn't go home right away. I sat in that parking lot until the sun went down, staring at the papers, doing math I didn't want to do. Emma was 6 years old, conceived 7 years ago. We'd been married for 3 years at that point, trying for a second baby, going to marriage counseling because the stress was affecting us. Marriage counseling. Where had we done that counseling? Dr. Morrison's office downtown, Thursday evenings. Sarah always left early for some reason, said she had time to process before I arrived. How long were those sessions? 90 minutes. Where was Michael 7 years ago? I opened Facebook on my phone, found his profile. His job history said he'd been working in the same city, same downtown area, the same neighborhood as Dr. Morrison's office. You know what's worse than finding out your child isn't yours? Finding out your wife knows which one isn't. I called David. I have the results, I said. And? Jake's mine. Emma isn't. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm still her father, but David, Sarah knows. She had to know. The timing, it's too perfect. She got pregnant during marriage counseling. She's been with Michael this whole time. Maybe not constantly, but enough. Enough to plan this. Can you prove that? Not yet, but I'm going to, because I'm not letting her take Emma. I don't care what the DNA says. That's my daughter. Then we need more than just the test results. We need to show a pattern of deception. We need to show she knew and concealed it. I need a private investigator, I said. Can you recommend one? He could. Her name was Rebecca. Former police detective, now freelance, specialized in domestic cases. She met me at a coffee shop the next morning and listened to my story without taking notes. Afterwards, she said, "How much do you want to know?" Everything. Sometimes everything is worse than nothing. You sure? I'm already holding a DNA test that says my daughter isn't mine. What could be worse than that? She smiled, sad and knowing. You'd be surprised. Give me 2 weeks. It took her 10 days. The envelope she handed me was thick. Manila folder, accordion expansion, stuffed with 8 by 10 photos. Surveillance logs, credit card receipts, hotel records, 47 photographs total, 3 different hotels, 7 different dates, all within the past 6 months. Timestamps burned into the bottom right corner, 11:47 p.m., 2:23 a.m., repeated visits, same hotel rooms, same man, black and white photos, grainy from distance. but you couldn't mistake the hand on her lower back. The way she leaned into him at the elevator, the kiss in the parking garage at 3 a.m. Rebecca had matched the dates to Sarah's work trips. Every single one. "She's not careful," Rebecca said, "or she doesn't think you'll check. Either way, this is enough for court, especially combined with the DNA evidence." I flipped through the photos again. Sarah in the dress I'd bought her for her birthday. Sarah getting into Michael's car. Sarah walking into a hotel at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday when she told me she was at a product launch event. "There's more," Rebecca said. She pulled out a printout. "Credit card statements, joint account, right? She's been using it to pay for hotel rooms. Not even trying to hide it." I studied the statements. There it was. Embassy Suites, Hilton Garden Inn, charges for champagne and room service on our money. Our joint account that we'd opened when we got married, when we'd promised to be partners. "What do I do with this?" I asked. "You give it to your lawyer. You use it to establish a pattern of infidelity and deception. And you prepare for her to fight back. Because when you present this in court, she's going to come at you with everything she has." I thought about Emma asking where Mommy was in her drawing, about Jake's journal entry I'd found last week. Dad is always here. "Good," I said. "Let her try." I didn't tell Sarah I knew. That was the hardest part. Coming home every day, kissing her hello, asking about her day, watching her lie smoothly, effortlessly, while I smiled and nodded. But I wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it for evidence. Because David had explained something important. In family court, emotion doesn't win. Evidence wins, documentation wins, the cold, hard, provable truth wins. So I became a documentarian of my own life. I installed a voice-activated recorder in the kitchen, small, digital, hidden inside a vase on top of the fridge. Legal in our state as long as one party to the conversation consented. I was a party. I consented. I recorded every conversation we had for the next 2 weeks. Most of it was mundane. Grocery lists, car maintenance, who was picking up the kids, Sarah complaining about her boss. Me pretending everything was fine, but on day 9, something changed. Sarah's sister called. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard her phone ring through the kitchen window. Sarah answered on speaker. She always did when she was cooking. "Hey," she said. "Hang on, let me stir this." The sound of a wooden spoon against a pot. "Okay, I'm here." "How's everything?" her sister asked. "Fine, same old. Work's busy, kids are good, nothing new." "And your husband?" Sarah laughed, that same light, dismissive laugh from the phone call. "What about him? Does he suspect anything?" My hand froze on the screwdriver I was holding. "Suspect what?" Sarah said. "That I'm having dinner with an old friend. Please, he's too focused on his spreadsheets to notice anything." "But Emma, what about Emma? Does he know she's not his?" The silence stretched. I counted 3 seconds, 4, 5. Then Sarah said, calm as ordering coffee, "He'll never leave. He's too weak. And even if he found out, what's he going to do? I've got the kids, the house, the sympathy. He's got..." "What? His pride?" Her sister laughed. "You're terrible. I'm practical. Michael and I have been planning this for months. Once I get the house and the divorce, we can..." "You're really going to divorce him?" "Eventually, when the time is right. But first, I need to make sure everything's in my favor. Document his neglect. Build a case. He works late sometimes. That's abandonment. He travels for work. That's prioritizing career over family. It's easy." "What if he fights back?" "He won't. You know why? Because he loves those kids more than he hates me. He'll roll over to protect them. People like him always do." I stood in the garage, screwdriver in hand, listening to my wife plan my destruction with the casual efficiency of someone ordering takeout. The recorder captured every word. I made a copy of the recording that night. 3 copies, actually. One for David, one for my safe deposit box, one on a USB drive I kept in my car. Then I went back inside and had dinner with my wife. Not weak, not naive, just done. The next morning, I started building a timeline. Red markers for her lies, blue for my presence. Printouts of credit card statements spread across the dining room table at 5 a.m. before anyone else woke up. I used a ruler, made it neat, professional. The kind of chart you could present in court. 5 years. That's how far back the unexplained charges went. 5 years of work dinners and team events and late meetings. 5 years of hotel rooms and Uber rides to addresses that weren't her office. The chart looked like a war map. Red X's marking battles I didn't know I was fighting. Blue circles where I'd been home with the kids. Bath time, bedtime stories, school pickups, doctor appointments. The blue outnumbered the red 3-1. It was a war. I just hadn't known I was in it. I'd been so focused on being a good husband, a present father, that I'd missed the siege happening in my own house. Emma wandered in around 6:30, rubbing her eyes. "What you doing, Daddy?" I quickly flipped the papers over. "Just work stuff, sweetheart. Want pancakes? With chocolate chips? Is there any other kind?" She climbed into my lap, still warm from sleep, and wrapped her small arms around my neck. 0%. That's what the DNA test said. 0% biological connection, and 100% my daughter. David called that afternoon. I did some digging. Michael, the ex, was married, divorced 8 months ago. Recent. Very recent and messy. His ex-wife might be willing to talk. I have her number if you want it. I did. Her name was Linda. We met at a Starbucks halfway between our houses. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes and a wedding ring she still wore on a chain around her neck. "Thank you for meeting me," I said. She stirred her coffee slowly. "David said you're going through something similar. My wife, your ex-husband, I know, I've known for 2 years. I just couldn't prove it until the end." 2 years. The number hit like a fist. "How did you find out?" "Credit card statements, same as you, probably. Then I hired a PI. Then I installed tracking software on his phone, which don't do that. It's illegal and inadmissible in court. But it gave me enough to know where to look." She pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos. "These are from before the divorce. He thought he'd deleted them, but I'd already backed everything up." The photos showed text messages between Sarah and Michael. Hundreds of them, years of them. "Can't wait to see you Thursday. Told her I have a work thing." He's so clueless. Probably thinks I'm at yoga. "When we're finally together, no more hiding." Linda watched my face. "I'm sorry. I know what it feels like to read that about yourself." "There's more," I said. I told her about Emma, about the DNA test, about the recording where Sarah laughed about my weakness. Linda set down her coffee. "She told him about the baby, about your daughter, Emma, right? Michael told me once during a fight. He said he had a daughter but couldn't claim her because it would complicate things. He was furious that Sarah wouldn't leave you." "He wanted her to leave?" "For years, but she wouldn't. She liked the arrangement. You for stability and childcare, him for excitement. She told him you'd never suspect, never leave, never cause problems. You were, in her words, the perfect solution. Use me as the stable provider while they... I couldn't finish the thought. Linda reached across the table and touched my hand. "Listen to me. You're not weak. You're not clueless. You're a good person who trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a character flaw. That's called being human. Will you testify?" I asked. "If this goes to court?" "Absolutely. I'll bring the texts, the photos, everything. She destroyed my marriage. I'm not letting her destroy yours and keep the kids." We exchanged numbers. As I stood to leave, Linda said, "One more thing. Michael used to say Emma looked just like him. He was proud of it. That's in the text messages too. If you need proof that Sarah knew..." She didn't have to finish. Sarah knew. She'd always known. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Sarah, listening to her breathe, and thought about the past 7 years. Every school play where I'd been there and she'd had an excuse. Every bedtime where I'd read the stories while she finished work emails. Every morning I'd made breakfast while she slept in. The blue circles on my timeline, my presence, my choice to show up. At 2 a.m. I got up and went to Jake's room. He was 9, old enough to sleep without a nightlight now, but I'd kept one plugged in anyway because sometimes he still woke up scared. His bookshelf was organized the way he liked it, series together, alphabetical by author. His desk had a spelling test from Friday, 100% in red marker at the top. And on his nightstand, partially hidden under a comic book, was a spiral notebook. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't. But my hand reached for it anyway. The cover was blue, dog-eared at the corners. Inside, his handwriting slanted left, pressing hard into the paper. Most of it was school stuff, science notes, math practice. But toward the back, there were dated entries. Not quite a diary, more like observations. One entry dated 3 weeks ago. Mom's 6th trip this year. Dad made spaghetti and we watched a movie. He always stays. Another from a month before that. Mom forgot about my soccer game again. Dad was there. He's always there. And then, underlined 3 times, the paper torn slightly from the pressure. Dad is always here. Mom is always going. I think that means Dad loves us more. Or maybe just more real. I closed the notebook carefully and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Stood there in the dark of my son's room, watching his chest rise and fall, and understood something I'd been too close to see. I hadn't failed my family. I'd been holding it together while someone else tried to tear it apart. The next morning, I called my sister. We hadn't talked in a few weeks. Life gets busy, you make plans to catch up and then don't. But I needed to tell someone who'd known me long enough to see the truth. I'm getting divorced, I said when she picked up. What? When did this happen? I told her everything. The phone call, the tests, the recording, Linda, the timeline. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she said, I'm coming over. You don't have to... I'm coming over tonight, and I'm bringing Mom and Dad. Please don't tell them yet. I can't handle... They need to know. We all need to know. You can't do this alone. But I had been doing it alone. For 2 weeks now, I'd been living in this split reality. Husband and father on the surface, investigator and plaintiff underneath. It was exhausting. Okay, I said, tonight. My parents arrived at 7. My sister came with them, plus her husband Marcus, who'd been my friend before he'd been my brother-in-law. Sarah was working late. Actually working late this time, I'd checked, so it was just us and the kids. We put on a movie for Jake and Emma, then gathered in the kitchen. I laid it all out. The documents, the photos, the timeline, the DNA tests. My mother's face went pale when I showed her Emma's results. That beautiful girl, she whispered. Sarah knew. She knew. My father, who never swore, said a word I'd never heard him use. Then he stood up and paced the kitchen 3 times before stopping at the fridge. He stared at Emma's drawing, the 4 stick figures, no mother. This child, he said, pointing at the purple figure, drew her family the way it actually is, without even knowing why. My mother was crying quietly. My sister handed her tissues and glared at me. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Because I needed to have a plan first. I needed evidence. I needed to know I could win. Win what? Marcus asked. What's the goal here? Custody. Primary custody. Both kids. I'm adopting Emma. I don't care what the DNA says. And I'm making sure Sarah doesn't walk away from this like she's the victim. My mother wiped her eyes. What do you need from us? Testimony, if it comes to that. Character witnesses, people who've seen me parent these kids while Sarah was working late, and I faltered, didn't want to ask, but David had said family support matters in custody cases. And I need you to believe me. When Sarah tells her side, when she says I'm vindictive or controlling or making this up, I need you to know the truth. My father came back to the table, sat down heavily, looked at me with the same expression he'd worn at my college graduation, at my wedding, at the hospital when Jake was born. Pride mixed with concern. Son, he said, I raised you to never give up on marriage, to work through problems, to put family first. He paused. But I also raised you to know your worth and to protect your children. Sarah isn't the family you need to protect anymore. Those kids are. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. You're going to fight for them, and you're going to win because you're already the parent they need. Then she did something I didn't expect. She pulled out her checkbook. The lawyer bills, she said, writing with sharp, angry strokes. They're going to be expensive. You pay for the best. You use every resource you have. You leave her with nothing but the truth. She tore out the check and slid it across the table. $10,000. Mom, I can't. You can. You will. Consider it an investment in my grandchildren's future. Marcus cleared his throat. I've got something too. Not money, but information. Remember when Sarah asked me to recommend a hotel downtown for that client event last spring? I checked. There was no client event that weekend, but the Embassy Suites shows a charge for Michael Chapman on those same dates. I pulled the records. I've got connections in hospitality. They checked in together. Another piece. Another nail. My sister pulled out her phone. I've been talking to people, your friends, hers, mutual acquaintances. I've got 18 people willing to testify about your character, about who really shows up for the kids, about who they'd trust as a parent. I looked around the table, my family, the people who'd shown up when I needed them. Thank you, I said. My voice cracked. I didn't know how to ask. You don't have to ask, my father said. That's what family does. We show up. Real family isn't blood. It's who shows up. 2 days later, David called with news. We've got a court date, temporary custody hearing in 3 weeks. This is where we establish preliminary arrangements while the divorce proceeds. The judge will hear both sides and decide where the kids stay pending the final decision. What do I need to do? Everything you're already doing. Document, don't deviate. Be the parent you've always been. And we need to prep the kids. My stomach dropped. They have to testify? Not in the traditional sense. The judge will likely appoint a guardian ad litem, someone who represents the children's interests. That person will interview them, age appropriately, and report back to the court. Jake's old enough to express preferences. Emma's young, but her feelings matter too. I don't want to drag them into this. You're not. Sarah already did that when she decided to have an affair and get pregnant with another man's child. You're just making sure their voices are heard. The guardian ad litem was a woman named Dr. Patricia Chen, child psychologist, court approved, neutral. She came to the house on a Tuesday afternoon while Sarah was at work. I'd told the kids someone was coming to talk to them about feelings. Jake had rolled his eyes. 9-year-olds aren't big on feelings talks. Emma had asked if she'd get a sticker after, like at the dentist. Dr. Chen sat up in the living room with paper and crayons and a gentle smile that probably worked on anxious kids. She talked to Jake first. I waited in the kitchen close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to give privacy. 20 minutes. When he came out, he looked okay. Not upset, just thoughtful. That was weird, he said. What did you talk about? Just stuff about you and Mom, about who helps with homework and who comes to my games. Normal stuff. How did it make you feel? He shrugged. I just told the truth. Then Emma went in. She carried her favorite stuffed elephant and climbed onto the couch next to Dr. Chen like they were old friends. I couldn't hear what they said, but I watched through the doorway as Emma drew another picture. More stick figures, more purple crayon. When she was done, Dr. Chen looked at the picture for a long time, said something quiet. Emma nodded seriously. Then Emma said something that made Dr. Chen write quickly in her notepad. After 45 minutes, Dr. Chen came to the kitchen. "I'd like to speak with you privately before I go." We went to my home office. She closed the door. "I'm going to be direct," she said. "Those children are remarkably well adjusted given what they're sensing about their family situation. Jake is protective of his sister and deeply bonded to you. Emma," she paused. "Emma drew another family picture. Would you like to see it?" She showed me. 4 stick figures again, but this time Emma had labeled them. Daddy, Jake, me, and a 4th figure off to the side, Mom on trip. "She consistently places you at the center of her family structure," Dr. Chen said. "When I asked about both parents, she talked about you for 15 minutes. About Sarah, she said, Bob, Mommy works a lot. She goes on trips, but Daddy's always home." Is that good or bad for the case? It's the truth. And the truth is what the court needs. But there's something else. She flipped pages in her notebook. I asked Emma if she knew what adoption meant. She said yes, her friend at school was adopted. So I asked if she'd ever thought about it. She said, Dr. Chen checked her notes. "I don't need to be adopted. Daddy's already my real dad." My throat closed. And then, Dr. Chen continued, she said something that broke my professional detachment. She said, "I know I'm not his blood. I heard Mommy talking about it on the phone, but blood doesn't make you real. Love makes you real. Daddy loves me the most, so he's my real daddy. That's better than blood, right?" I had to sit down. She overheard, I managed. She knows. She knows something. She doesn't understand it fully. She's 6. But she knows there's a question about biology, and she's already chosen her answer. Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Mr. Name, I'm not supposed to indicate my recommendations before filing my report, but I'm telling you now, these children are bonded to you in a way that's rare and beautiful. Whatever happens in court, fight for them, because they've already chosen you." After Dr. Chen left, I sat with Emma in her room. She was playing with her dolls, creating elaborate scenarios involving a princess and a dragon. "Hey kiddo," I said, "can I ask you something?" "Uh-huh." "That picture you drew today for Dr. Chen, can you tell me about it?" She set down the dolls, looked at me with those serious eyes. "I drew our family, you, me, Jake, and Max. Where was Mommy?" "On a trip. She's always on trips." "Does that make you sad?" Emma thought about it, tilted her head. "Sometimes, but you're always here, so it's okay." "If you could change anything about our family, what would it be?" "I'd make Mommy stay home more, or," she hesitated, "or I'd make it just be us, you and me and Jake and Max. Is that mean?" "No, sweetheart, that's not mean. That's honest." She climbed into my lap. 6 years old, 50 pounds of love and trust. "Daddy, I heard Mommy talking to Aunt Lisa. She said something about me and that I'm not really yours, but I am, right? I'm yours?" God, she'd heard, she knew. "Emma," I said carefully, "do you know what makes someone a real parent?" She shook her head. "It's not about where you came from. It's about who takes care of you, who shows up when you're sick, who reads you stories, who knows that your favorite color is purple and your favorite food is mac and cheese with the dinosaur shapes. That's what makes someone real." "So, you're my real daddy?" "I'm your real daddy, forever. Nothing changes that." She wrapped her arms around my neck. "Good. Because if someone else is my blood daddy, I don't want to meet him. He doesn't even know my favorite color." I held her while she cried quietly into my shoulder, not understanding fully, but understanding enough. Understanding that her world was shifting and the only stable thing in it was me. "It's okay," I whispered. I've got you forever." That night, after the kids were asleep, I went back to my office and added Dr. Chen's visit to the timeline. Another blue circle, another moment of showing up. The chart was almost full. Years of blue circles, years of being present while Sarah created red X's across our marriage. But the blue outnumbered the red, 3-1, maybe more. That had to count for something. That had to mean something. The courthouse was smaller than I expected. Gray stone, American flag out front, metal detectors at the entrance. I'd imagined something grander for the place where my family's future would be decided. David met me on the steps. Ready? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Sarah arrived 10 minutes later with her lawyer, a woman named Patricia Stern, who wore a suit that probably cost more than my car payment. Sarah had dressed carefully, modest blouse, minimal makeup, her wedding ring prominently displayed, playing the role of devoted wife and mother. I watched her walk past without acknowledging me. That was fine. We'd been sleeping in separate rooms for a week anyway. The pretense was over. The courtroom was wood-paneled and formal. Judge Morrison presided, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She looked like someone who'd heard every lie and learned to spot them all. "This is a temporary custody hearing," she began. "I'll hear from both parties regarding preliminary arrangements while the divorce proceedings continue. Mr. Reeves, you're petitioning for primary physical custody of both minor children, is that correct?" David stood. "Yes, Your Honor." "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that Miss Sarah Reeves has engaged in a pattern of infidelity and deception spanning 5 years, including but not limited to concealing the paternity of one child, using marital funds to finance extramarital affairs, and expressing intent to manipulate custody proceedings for financial gain. We have documentation, witness testimony, and recorded admissions." Patricia Stern stood smoothly. "Your Honor, this is a vindictive husband attempting to punish his wife for a personal matter. He's using the children as weapons because his pride was hurt. Ms. Reeves has been a devoted mother throughout this marriage, and my client requests primary custody based on her established role as primary caregiver." Judge Morrison looked at me over her glasses. "Mr. Reeves, who typically handles morning routines?" "I do, Your Honor. I wake the children, make breakfast, pack lunches, and drive them to school." "And after school?" "I pick them up 4 days a week. On the 5th day, they go to my parents' house until I finish work." "Doctor appointments?" "I take them. I have a calendar with every appointment for the past 3 years." "School events?" "I attend all of them. Parent-teacher conferences, school plays, soccer games, science fairs." The judge turned to Sarah. "Ms. Reeves, how many school events have you attended this academic year?" Sarah's lawyer whispered something to her. Sarah cleared her throat. "I work demanding hours, Your Honor. I provide financial stability for the family. My husband has more flexibility." "How many?" "2, maybe 3. I have a calendar somewhere." "Mr. Reeves has documentation showing he attended 23 school-related events this year. You attended 3? "I was building a career to support my family." "Or," David said, standing, "you were otherwise occupied." "Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit A." He handed packets to the judge, to the court reporter, to Sarah's lawyer. DNA test results, clinical and damning. Judge Morrison read in silence. When she looked up, her expression had hardened. "Miss Reeves, were you aware that Emma is not biologically your husband's child?" Sarah's face went pale. I don't know how he can claim it's a DNA test from a state-certified laboratory. Were you aware?" Silence. "Ms. Reeves, I asked you a question." "I suspected. I didn't know for certain." "You suspected for 6 years and never disclosed this to your husband?" "It didn't seem relevant. He's been a good father to her regardless." "That's not for you to decide unilaterally." Judge Morrison's voice cut like a blade. "Continue, Mr. Chen." David presented the timeline next. The printed chart, 5 years of hotel charges and Uber receipts, and late nights that lined up perfectly with Sarah's work trips. He presented Rebecca's surveillance photos. 47 photographs, time-stamped and geotagged. Patricia Stern objected 3 times. Judge Morrison overruled her 3 times. Then David played the recording. Sarah's voice filled the courtroom, crystal clear through the speakers. Does he know Emma isn't his? He'll never leave. He's too weak. I've got the kids, the house, the sympathy. He's got... what? His pride? The recording ran for 4 minutes. Every word documented, transcribed, undeniable. When it finished, Judge Morrison said, Ms. Reeves, is that your voice? Sarah was crying. Real tears this time, or performed ones. I couldn't tell anymore. It's out of context. I was upset. I didn't mean... You stated on a recorded call that your husband was too weak to leave and that you plan to use the children as leverage in a divorce. Is that an accurate summary? Your Honor, my client was venting to her sister in a private... The judge's eyebrows rose. She was in her own kitchen, on speakerphone, in a shared marital home. Mr. Reeves had every right to record conversations in his own home. Ms. Stern, unless you have evidence that contradicts this recording, I suggest we move forward. Patricia Stern looked at Sarah. Sarah shook her head, defeated. Your Honor, David said, we have additional witnesses. Linda Chapman, the ex-wife of Michael Chapman, the man Ms. Reeves has been conducting an affair with for at least 5 years. Linda took the stand, calm, prepared, devastating. She presented text messages between Sarah and Michael dating back 7 years. Messages planning meetups, discussing Emma, complaining about stable, boring me. One message dated 6 months after Emma's birth. She has your eyes. I wish I could tell everyone she's yours. Michael's response. Someday, when the timing's right, for now let him play dad. He's good at it. Judge Morrison read the messages in silence. Then she looked at Sarah with something close to disgust. We'll recess until tomorrow, 9 a.m. Ms. Reeves, I strongly suggest you use this time to reconsider your position. That night, I couldn't eat. My parents came over, brought food anyway. My mother heated soup while my father played with the kids. Everyone moved carefully around me like I was made of glass. Marcus pulled me aside. You're winning. You know that, right? The judge is on your side. It doesn't feel like winning. That's because you're not trying to destroy her. You're trying to protect them. He nodded toward the living room where Emma was showing my mother her latest drawing. That's the difference. That's why you'll win. Day 2 started differently. Judge Morrison called for Dr. Chen's report first. The guardian ad litem took the stand and presented her findings in careful clinical language. Both children demonstrate strong attachment to their father. Jake, age 9, expressed consistent preference for living with his father, citing his father's presence at important events and daily routines. Emma, age 6, shows similar bonding patterns. When asked to draw her family, she consistently places her father at the center and her mother at the periphery. Did the children express any concerns about their mother? Judge Morrison asked. Not concerns exactly, more observations. Both children noted that their mother travels frequently and works late. Jake stated, quote, Dad is always there, Mom is always going. Emma said, Mommy's on trips a lot, but Daddy's always home. Dr. Chen flipped through her notes. There's one more thing, Your Honor. Emma is aware, at some level, that there are questions about her paternity. She overheard adult conversations. When I asked her about it, she said, and I quote, I know I'm not his blood, but blood doesn't make you real. Love makes you real. Daddy loves me the most, so he's my real daddy. The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was softer. That child shouldn't have to explain what family means to the adults who are supposed to protect her. Then David dropped the final piece. Your Honor, we have one more witness. Someone who can speak to Ms. Reeves's intent and planning regarding this affair and its impact on the family. The courtroom doors opened. A man walked in. Mid-30s, expensive suit, nervous energy. I recognized him from the surveillance photos. Same build, same walk. Michael Chapman. Sarah's face went white. Her lawyer leaned over, whispering urgently. Sarah shook her head, panicked. Michael took the stand, was sworn in, looked everywhere except at Sarah. Mr. Chapman, David said, what is your relationship to Ms. Reeves? We've been involved, on and off, for about 7 years. Are you aware that Emma Reeves is your biological daughter? Yes. How long have you known? Since before she was born. Sarah told me she was pregnant. We discussed options. What options? Michael shifted uncomfortably. She wanted to keep the baby but not leave her husband. She said he was stable, good with kids, financially responsible. She said we could continue our relationship while he provided the domestic structure. So you agreed to let another man raise your biological child? I didn't have much choice. Sarah made it clear, either accept the arrangement or lose her entirely. Did you provide any financial support? No, Sarah said that would raise suspicions. Did you have a relationship with Emma? No, I've never met her. His voice cracked. Sarah said it was too risky. Judge Morrison leaned forward. Mr. Chapman, why are you here today? Because my lawyer advised me to cooperate. I'm going through my own legal issues, fraud charges related to some business dealings. My attorney thought testifying here might demonstrate character and remorse. So you're testifying to save yourself? Yes, Your Honor, but also because what we did was wrong. That man raised a child thinking she was his. We let him. We used him. And the kid, Emma, she deserves better than being a secret. David presented more evidence. Text messages where Michael and Sarah discussed Phase 2, divorcing me after securing the house and maximum child support. Plans to eventually bring Michael into Emma's life as mommy's new friend and slowly transition the truth. It was calculated, methodical, cruel. When David finished, he said simply, Your Honor, Ms. Reeves didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. Multiple choices over multiple years to deceive her husband and use him as a resource while planning an exit strategy. Mr. Reeves isn't asking for revenge. He's asking for truth and for the right to continue being the father he's always been. Patricia Stern tried to recover. She called character witnesses who said Sarah was a good person, dedicated professional, loving mother, but their testimony felt hollow against the weight of evidence. Then Judge Morrison did something unexpected. I'd like to hear from Jake, in chambers, with Dr. Chen present. No lawyers, no parents, just the boy and me. My heart seized. Your Honor. This is his life we're deciding, Mr. Reeves. He should have a voice. They were gone for 20 minutes. When they came back, Jake's eyes were red, but his face was set, determined. Judge Morrison returned to the bench, looked at Sarah, then at me. Jake is a remarkably mature 9-year-old. I asked him what he wanted. Would you like to know what he said? The courtroom waited. He said, I want to stay with my dad. He's the one who's always been there. He knows my bedtime stories. He knows when I'm sad, even if I don't say it. He knows that Emma gets scared during thunderstorms and needs her elephant. Mom doesn't know that stuff. Or maybe she does, but she's never there for it. Judge Morrison looked down at her notes. Then I asked if he loved his mother. He said yes. I asked if he wanted to see her. He said yes, sometimes. And then he said something that made my decision very easy. He said, but I want to live with Dad because love isn't enough if you're not there. Sarah was sobbing now, Real tears, broken tears. I asked Jake one more question, the judge continued. I asked if he was worried about Emma, about her finding out the truth about her biological father. He said, Emma already knows. She told me. She's scared Mom's going to make her leave Dad, but Dad's her real dad. That's not about DNA. That's about who shows up. Those were his exact words. Who shows up? Judge Morrison put on her glasses and picked up her gavel. I've heard enough. Here's my ruling. Primary physical custody is granted to Mr. Reeves. Ms. Reeves will have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending completion of family counseling. Mr. Reeves, you're authorized to pursue formal adoption proceedings for Emma, assuming Michael Chapman agrees to terminate parental rights. She looked at Michael. Do you agree? Yes, Your Honor. I have no claim to that child. He's been her father. He should continue to be. Good. Then it's settled. Custody order will be filed within 48 hours. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel struck. Here's a question I wrestled with, and maybe you have too. When someone betrays you completely, do you set boundaries and walk away, or do you give them one more chance to explain? I chose boundaries. I chose truth. I chose my kids. Drop boundaries or explain below. No wrong answer, just your truth. The adoption ceremony happened 3 months later. Small courtroom, different judge, mostly a formality. Emma wore a purple dress she'd picked out herself. Jake wore a tie and complained about it the whole time. The judge, a kind man named Phillips, explained what adoption meant. That Emma would legally be my daughter in every way. That her birth certificate would be amended. That nothing would change except the paperwork because the relationship was already real. Emma, Judge Phillips said gently, do you understand what's happening today? She nodded seriously. I'm getting to be really, really Daddy's daughter forever. You were always his daughter. This just makes it official. Official is good, Emma said, because some people said I wasn't his, but now nobody can say that anymore. The judge signed the papers, the clerk stamped them, and just like that, Emma Grace Reeves became my daughter in the eyes of the law. She'd always been my daughter in every way that mattered. Afterward, we went to her favorite restaurant, the one with the dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets and the crayons at every table. Emma drew another picture, this time 4 stick figures with a banner above them, my family, forever. No parentheses indicating trips, no uncertainty, just us. Sarah sees the kids every other weekend now, supervised visits at first, then gradually unsupervised as she completed her court-mandated counseling. The kids go, sometimes reluctantly, but they go, because she's still their mother, even if she's no longer the center of their world. She apologized once. 3 months after the custody ruling, she showed up at the house to drop off the kids and asked if we could talk. We sat on the porch while the kids played inside. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it. I was selfish. I wanted everything, security and excitement, and I convinced myself I could have both without anyone getting hurt. But people did get hurt. I know, especially the kids, especially Emma. She shouldn't have found out the way she did. She shouldn't have had to find out at all. You should have told me. Sarah looked at her hands. Would you have stayed? I don't know. Probably not. But I would have still been Emma's father. I would have adopted her then, made it official, made sure she knew she was loved. Instead, she spent 6 years in limbo, hearing whispers, wondering if she belonged. I thought I was protecting everyone. You were protecting yourself. She nodded slowly. Yeah, I was. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, You're a good father. Better than I gave you credit for. Emma's lucky. She's not lucky. She's loved. There's a difference. Sarah left after that. The kids hugged her goodbye. Jake dutifully, Emma enthusiastically, but briefly. They're learning to navigate this new reality. Split homes, different rules. the complicated geography of divorced families. But when they come home, to my home, our home, they relax. They spread out. They know this is their safe place. Amrit spread out. My mother framed Emma's drawing, the one from that first night with 4 stick figures and no mother. She hung it in her hallway next to photos of graduations and weddings and grandkids' birthdays. This, she told me, is what family looks like. Not blood, not obligations, just people who choose each other. I took Emma to see it last Sunday. She stood in front of it, studying her own crayon work from years ago. I drew this when I was little, she said. You did, do you remember? I remember I was sad because Mommy was gone, but then I drew us and I felt better. Why did you feel better? She looked up at me, 8 years old now, missing different teeth, still carrying that elephant everywhere. Because I saw what was real. Mommy was on a trip, but you were there. You're always there. Always, I said. Forever? Forever. This story isn't just about DNA or courts. It's about what family really means. If you've got someone in your life who's not blood but is family, the person who showed up when others left, drop their name below. Let them know they matter. Last night, I was cleaning out the garage and found the old timeline chart. 5 years of red X's and blue circles, war maps of a marriage falling apart. I almost threw it away. Then I realized it told a different story than I'd thought. It wasn't just a record of Sarah's betrayals. It was a record of my presence. Every blue circle was a choice to show up, to be present, to love my kids even when their mother didn't. The blue outnumbered the red, 3-1, maybe more. That was the real story. Not the betrayal, the showing up. I folded the timeline carefully and put it in a box marked legal, keep. Someday, when the kids are older, if they want to understand what happened, they can see it. They can see the evidence, the truth, the moment their family redefined itself. But for now, we're focused on something simpler. Jake made the soccer team. Emma's learning piano. We have movie nights on Fridays and pancakes on Sundays. We're rebuilding normal, one day at a time. Marcus asked me last week if I was happy. I thought about it, really thought about it. Yeah, I said, I am. Not in the way I expected. Not in the way I planned when I got married and thought forever meant something different, but happy in the way that matters. My kids are safe. They're loved. They know who their family is. That's all that matters, Marcus said. No, not all, because I learned something through this whole nightmare. 2 words can change your life. Prove it. That's what I said when Sarah called from her hotel bar. 2 words that started this entire cascade, the tests, the evidence, the custody battle, the adoption. 2 words that saved my family. But there are other words too, better words, stronger words. I'm here. That's what I say every morning when I wake my kids up. I've got you. That's what I whisper when Emma has nightmares. I'm proud. That's what I tell Jake when he scores a goal or gets a good grade or just tries his best. And the words I say every single night when I tuck them in, I love you forever. Those words matter more than DNA, more than court orders, more than anything else in this world. Real family isn't who you're born to. It's who you choose every single time. And I choose them forever. We hung Emma's drawing in the hallway of our new place. Not the new one, the original. The one she drew during Sarah's first trip. 4 stick figures holding hands, me, Emma, Jake, and Max, with his oversized tail. The paper is fading now, the tape yellowing at the edges. The purple crayon has smudged slightly where Emma touched it too much, claiming her place in the picture. But every time I walk past it, I remember, 2 words started this, prove it. And we did. Not just in court, but every single day after. in the morning routines and the bedtime stories, in the soccer games and the piano recitals, in the thunderstorms when Emma needs her elephant and the quiet moments when Jake needs to talk. We proved it with presence, with showing up, with love that doesn't quit. She'd known all along what family really meant. No mother in the picture, just the people who stayed. I asked Emma last week if she wanted to draw a new family picture, something updated, more accurate to our current life. She looked at me like I'd suggested throwing away her favorite toy. "Why?" she said. "That picture is perfect. It's always been perfect. It's us." She was right. It always had been. If this story reminded you that you deserve respect, that boundaries aren't cruel, and that real family is built on loyalty, not biology, I've got more stories like this every week. Stories about people who chose truth over comfort, who fought for what mattered, who learned that family is a verb, not a noun. And hey, if you ever find yourself holding a phone about to make a call that changes everything, remember this. 2 words can change your life. Choose them wisely. For me, those words were, prove it. But the words that saved us, the words that built our real family, those words were simpler. I'm here. I choose you. Forever. We don't leave. We don't quit. We show up. That's what real family does.